Hey folks, this is Grim Perspectives, I'm Grim. Today I'd like to talk to you about Saga of the Goblin Horde. What is Saga of the Goblin Horde? I not really hear you ask, but well, anyways, Saga of the Goblin Horde is a Savage Worlds setting, a fan setting, written by Richard Woolcock. And why do you want to talk about it? Well, because it's fast, it's furious, it's awesome, it's fun, and it's completely free. So, did I get your attention? Good. So let's talk about that for a second. Well, in a minute, because first I'd like to introduce you to a connection I made while doing those YouTube videos here, and that's Nerds International.
Those of you who got an invite, welcome to Nerd Prom.
No matter where in the world you are, we're all Nerds International. With the hyphen.
So, what's Nerds International? Nerds International is a small community of content creators, and 2 weeks ago they invited me on one of their shows, talking about balancing and randomness in Savage Worlds, and how to balance encounter, how to set up encounters, that stuff. And we had quite a lot of fun, and maybe it might prove useful to some game masters out there, or some players. So, if you want to take a look at that, I'll link the show they invited me on below. And another thing I want to draw your attention to is another interview, another podcast they did where they invited Richard Woolcock. So, where have you heard that name before? Well, maybe because I just, said it like 30 seconds ago. He's the creator of Saga of the Goblin Horde. And he created a lot of really cool content even before Saga of the Goblin Horde, and he always publishes it himself, he layouts it himself, and he's talking about all that. So if you're interested, just take a look at that. I'll link the stuff in the description down below. So, Saga of the Goblin Horde, what is it? It is a tightly focused, awesome setting which pitches goblins and their allies against humans. Because you see, in the setting, just take a second here while I'm scrolling through this. The layout, the artwork, the whole setup here looks awesome. It's just really cool. Okay, back to topic. What do we do in Saga of the Goblin Horde? Well, the goblins live in this little valley here, which is secluded from the humans by this hill and, a lot of sea. And so the filthy humans, or clean humans in that case, didn't get their fingers on it yet. But the humans are coming in, and now the goblin tribes, many tribes warring amongst each other, what you expect from goblins, really, want to, drive the humans back. And there's a little plot point campaign which deals with exactly that. Just getting the humans back out. It's a lot crazier than that if you're playing through it, but, for starters, getting the humans out of your valley. What I really like about Saga of the Goblin Horde is its tight focus. It's not one of those 500 pages setting books or pen and paper rule books, which, as a player, seems to enable you to play anything, like Drow from the Underdark, or a Rashini Witch, or a Red Mage from Tai. And as a game master, you sit there and scratch your head and try to decide, how am I gonna get those characters in a party? Where should I set my campaign? What is all this about? That's not one of those settings. Saga of the Goblin Horde gives you a tight geography, a landscape that you can work in with nice descriptions of the localities and the setting and the tribes that live there. It gives you a tightly focused pool of enemies, monsters, gives you a little plot point campaign that you can play, which will take you 10 sessions or something. I'm gonna plan with 10 sessions when I'm gonna start it. And It gives you a tightly focused set of rules to enable you to play characters in this setting. So, what can you expect to play here? Well, you are playing a goblin or one of the other races. Let's take a quick look. What do we have here? We have bugbears. Bugbears, Grottenschrate in German. Those big brutish buggers. We have goblins. We have gremlins, which are goblins but more technically minded. Half humans, outcasts, and who would ever mate with a human? That's just plain disgusting. Well, hobgoblins, those military fascist types, yeah, and you can choose from one of them. That's quite a narrow focus. It's not like evil drow and humans and high elves and orcs and stuff. It's focused on goblins and their allies. That makes it easy to build a concurrent party. So, and what are you expected to do in a setting? Well, the humans are coming and the tribes have chiefs. You're not one of the chiefs. You don't have to decide what, in the big scheme of things, what to do. You are one of the guys leading a gang. Yeah, that's right. You're not playing a single goblin. You play a character who has a small gang. Your spirit die half plus rank, to be precise. So half a dozen, something like that. And that's your gang. And the chieftains use those gangs to do tasks, like there is humans coming over there, just make sure they don't get into this wood, or they are trying to get into this cave, and you are tasked with trapping and defending that cave and generally being nasty to the humans who are coming. So you are a group of player characters who are themselves gang leaders. So you have a group of, like, say, 4 player characters, so you have quite a lot of goblins. And they are replaceable, as they should be, because those little buggers will die. They are just extras. There are several mechanics in this game which I totally adore. You have your own small little gang, and you can do several things. You can lead them into combat, you can well, put them to work building traps and stuff like that. But what you can also do is use them as a meat shield. So if some human comes and fires an arrow at you, yeah, that's probably gonna damage you, and you take the enemy rolls the damage, and well, I would take wounds from that. My goblin can now decide if he wants to try to soak it as per normal Savage Worlds rules, or if he's gonna pull a goblin from his gang or someone else's gang in front of him and let him take the arrow, because that's how goblins works. That's the kind of style you can expect from the setting. So, meat shield, you have your own little gang. What else is there to know? Well, it doesn't use money, because goblin tribes don't have really a use for money. They use knickknacks, so stuff you use to trade. That might be shiny buttons, broken weapons, stuff like that. Anything that might be worth something to someone else, and that's a knickknack, and that's what you use as currency. And it features some quick skirmish rules, because as I told you, if you've got like 4 players, each of them has like 5 goblins or something like that. That would mean that you actually have a group of like 20 people to handle. So that's why there are those quick skirmish rules, which just help you to quickly decide how an encounter is going to pan out without pulling out a battle map and just, well, doing it longhand, so to speak. But the book also features a lot of options for character customization. As I told you, there are lots of races you can play, but as well there are new hindrances, because you need some new stuff. If you look at the standard Savage Worlds rule, it has things like bloodthirsty and arrogant, which are in Saga of the Goblin Horde considered the norm. That's not a hindrance, that's just what a goblin is. So they Richard came up with a bunch of new hindrances that make customization of a goblin nice and nasty. So you might have a cannibalistic goblin, you might have a loner who doesn't have a gang, you might be reckless, you might be tasty, so other goblins might be trying to eat you, you might be even more nasty than a usual goblin and be a turncoat, so you stab people in the back, or you might be soft-hearted and not really goblin-like at all. And that's more or less the equivalent of being bloodthirsty in a normal Savage Worlds game. Soft-hearted goblins. If that comes out, you can kiss your reputation goodbye. So, nice hindrances to flesh out your character, and a bunch of cool new edges, which go from mutations you might have, like big hands or big nose, which may enable you to give you a bonus to notice rules and track much better. Mutations also in the sense of that there are distinct mutation edges where you can have a race that is not really a goblin but an amphibian, so an amphibious goblin, or a Cantiaur, so that's half wolf, half goblin, so more or less like a centaur but with wolves, or a troll goblin, or a psionic goblin, or a barghest, whatever. If you play in D&D, you probably know those, but those are like goblin werewolves. And that gives you a lot more flexibility than you would get simply by looking at the races you have. And, well, there's a bunch of other stuff that really fit in well into the setting and give you a lot of character options. It also details arcane backgrounds and equipment, but I don't want to make this video too long, so just let it be said that concerning the equipment, it's not really realistic, historic, or something like that. It's more over the top and vicious little goblins. It fits the style. So, I've talked about for quite a while now about Saga of the Goblin Horde, and I haven't yet said something negative. And that might be a first here, because you know me, usually I focus on the things I'd like to critique, and I don't see it in a negative sense, because there are just things we need to talk about and to think about. And here I've said a whole lot of stuff that is not really negative. Why is that? Well, one, I really like the setting. Two, it does things that I might, under other circumstances, consider not my cup of tea. Like that over-the-top equipment with like massive two-handed swords and axes and nuts and bolts through everything. Stuff like that. But that's the flavor here. It's really what Saga of the Goblin Horde does extraordinarily well, is focus on what it tries to achieve and be really honest about that focus. It won't be saying anywhere here that it's trying to be realistic. It won't anywhere in here tell you that it's about big heroic epics. No, it's about nasty little buggers fighting tooth and nail over their territory. And that it does very well. It has a small number of setting rules that it uses to enhance that flavor. It has edges and hindrances that help you get that across in character creation. And so I don't have really much to critique here, except it might not be your cup of tea. If you don't want to play goblins, then I'd advise you to take a look at it anyway, because it has really nice designed edges and setting rules, which you might, well, appropriate for yourself in your campaign. Steal it. And it has really, well, it's just an awesome book, and it's free, so why not? But if it's not your cup of tea, then yeah, you're probably not gonna play it. If it is your cup of tea, and you're gonna have an awesome amount of fun with that. So, if I were forced, if you put a pistol to my head and said, say something negative, what would I say? Well, other than it might not be your cup of tea, I've told you that there is a plot point campaign, but I talked in the past, my past few videos, I talked about that I am really a big fan of narrative consequence and of player choices and of non-linear campaign design, and that campaign isn't that. It's a linear campaign which gives you a lot of guidance what you're gonna do. It goes so far as to tell you which dice roll to make at which occasion, and that might be something I could take umbrage with, but I'm not gonna. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because it is much easier for an experienced game master who wants to set up his campaign in a non-linear way to take this plot point campaign, which is like 2 pages per adventure. It's not really a big read, so you can just take that, read it, and appropriate it for yourself and make it non-linear, incorporate many more choices for your players in it. That's an easy thing to do if you're an experienced game master. On the other hand, if you are new to GMing Savage Worlds or just not feeling like it at the moment, then you can just go buy the book and you have a very linear, easy to comprehend, easy to adapt stuff that you can just use. And my critique in general is not when it comes to linear campaigns and stuff like that, is not when it goes with fun little games like that one where you might play 10 sessions and play the campaign and then it's fine. It's about those big campaigns that try to be epic and try to incorporate tough choices and the fight against evil and whatnot, and then fail to get the point across when it comes to having consequences for character choices. Well, anyway, if I were to say something negative, the plot point campaign is really cool, nice, and over the top, but it is very linear. But that's something you can adapt as a game master. Apart from that, I don't know. I really like it, and if it's your cup of tea, I'll link it in the description below. Just try it. It's cool. Check it. Read through it, and you'll find a lot of stuff that you probably can use if you're not playing Saga of the Goblin Horde, and if you just want to play something for an evening or two, well, try it out. It's actually quite nice. Yeah. Okay. So to sum up, what can we take away from this? That is not directly focused on Saga of the Goblin Horde itself. Focus. If you're designing something, you probably have in mind how you expect it to be played, a perspective your characters will have. Like in Shadowrun, you are a Shadowrunner, probably. In Saga of the Goblin Hordes, you play goblins, and you have this and that to do. And having a narrow focus in your setting, in your campaign, is nothing bad. It's something good. It is something that your players can use to orient themselves on and to take that and build a congruent group, and that will enable you to build a congruent campaign. And focus is really a good thing in a campaign and a group. The only thing that can go wrong here is if you as a game master have a specific focus in mind and don't communicate it to your players. Or if you communicate it to your players and your players have a different opinion on the focus of the group and the focus of the campaign and what they would like to see. So what can go wrong here is communication. Well, so what do I have to say about role-playing in general in this video? Focus your campaign, but talk about it. Talk about it to your players. See where they stand on the stuff that you find important for that campaign. And until the next time, I'll give you the link. Check out Saga of the Goblin Horde. If you like it, leave a reply for Witcher. If you like my videos, if you like what we featured here, then leave a reply under my videos. And, well, apart from that, you know the usual. Like, subscribe, share it with other people who might find it useful. And until next time, let out your inner nasty little bugger and give Saga of the Goblin Horde a try. Grim out.